Communication is the focal point of business. Basketball is the focal point of the game of basketball. Now, having a vision is one thing, but implementing it is everything. So if it's just an idea, then we're just hallucinating. But how we get the vision done is we awaken people's hearts. Yeah, we communicate in a way that is inviting, not dictating. It always amazes me when a CEO stands up at a quarterly meeting and says, "Here's our vision." Whose vision is that? Did I create that vision? Is that the vision I thought about? A shared vision is a vision that we really want. That also comes with the right to refuse it. So what do we want to create? What do we want to create? Now, as a CEO, you've got three visions to communicate and to keep a steady cadence on all three in different conversation domains. For example, in a quarterly offsite, you may want to talk about the big picture, the 3-year, the 5-year, or maybe like a 20-year BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal that we're moving towards. This goal is often impossible. It's a goal that's impractical, but it's not about what the goal is, rather, it's the pictured goal doing something to us. And so we consider it, we choose it, it becomes a workable idea. And so this is the idea, and this is what we do. And so in doing so, we need to also communicate the current state. So in order for us to get the current state, what has to happen is an abstract picture, the vision, needs to be distilled into metrics, goals. A goal is an aim by which we keep score. It's a benchmark. It's like a yardstick. And so we don't know whether we're really creating the vision until we identify goals that enact it, that embody it, that espouse it, such that we know that we're moving toward or away from the vision. Now, these goals can be tangible, like revenue and profits. They could be financial goals, operational goals, production goals. They could be intangible goals, morale, customer service, customer satisfaction, confidence, self-efficacy. They could also be costs, reduce cost, or they could be displaced cost, or maybe even avoiding an oncoming cost, or we can avoid a risk that is involved, a cost of something getting bigger. So reducing the cost, displacing the cost to avoid an oncoming cost could be all very important in terms of goal setting. And as we do so, then the goals set the tone or set the scene for what is the current reality in relationship to this goal. So once we have a measurement, we can start taking stock of our current state, where our actual state is in relationship to that. And this thought process of reflecting and learning from the data and learning by the actions that we take is a process of 3 reflections. And so the CEO is there as the head coach to stimulate the reflection on the action, hindsight, reflection in the action, insight, and reflection for the action, foresight. So as CEO, you're there to stimulate all 3. Now, these current reality moments of fluency checks, seeing the current state, comparing these to the goals, could be a weekly process. It could be a monthly strategic process. It could be a quarterly offsite process. But you get the idea that we're always learning where we are in relationship to where we want to be, and we're always discovering and exploring what our actual vision is. It's a picture of the future that we seek to create. So then we have this other vision, which is how are we going to get there? And that means that members of the leadership team and then the managers, depending on the size of the organization, and then each team member, we're all clear on who does what by when. This is where the accountability charting comes in. This is where the GARR process comes in, where we translate the goals into activities, and then activities into roles, and roles into reports, so that we have a design and we bridge it to an execution. And by laying that out, we can lay that out in quarters. So we can define a quarterly set of priorities. And so if we work in those quarters, there's several reasons why. Is if we screw up a quarter, if you think about the next 25 quarters, that's 1% of 25. So if we screw up a quarter, it's not that big of a deal. And if we screw up, we can get back on our feet very quickly. So annualized plans are okay. You should have goals for annualized plans, but I like quarterly objectives because it keeps us close and creative, and it actually has a sense of urgency. So we want to over communicate this. What are we trying to create? Keeping it as a backdrop in the room. And then we have a clear, currently aligned goal or set of goals and priorities. And then those roles are the top 2, 3, maybe performance objectives of the key roles in the company. And of course, the goals are cascaded into those roles, such that if those roles are carried out and they're carried out successfully, the goals of the business are met. And therefore, there needs to be a current reality. There has to be visibility. So as we look upon what's really going on, we have a basis of comparison and reflection and benchmarking where we are compared to where we want to be. And of course, this difference at various intervals and performance moments, we're able to see the potential of what's there. If we've made some gains and where we have gaps, well, we can catalyze and motivate new and better decisions. It's all about reflection, and that we don't take the result personal. And so the current reality becomes the basis of motivating movement when it is juxtaposed to the goals. And you can break it down even further. I mean, you could take each performance objective in the position and break that down into disciplines and rituals and daily responsibilities. But that's, I think, more for the individual that takes delivery of the role, and they're going to carry out those objectives. One-on-one coaching with your team every other week to discuss the wins and accomplishments and concerns, and to get a pulse, and to remember that every conversation isn't a performance review. It's a career development conversation. So I encourage the CEOs to run CDCs. These are never-ending interviews. So not only communicate the vision to have an executive cadence, but also get feedback from the individual about what they're creating, where they are, what are the obstacles, what are the opportunities, and what's their thought process on how to make the most of those opportunities and seize them, and be able to make the most of those obstacles as raw material to create the goals that they've been tasked with and the ones that they're also adding on. Because when your people get into their roles, they're going to see more. They're going to listen their way to the role, and they may offer great feedback about needs that you don't see. And of course, as CEO, you can't do it all. You need specialists that can help you get visibility by giving you accuracy. And the way you get accurate feedback in these weekly and monthly and quarterly is that you make it safe to do so. But you over-communicate the vision that you're after. You over-communicate the priorities that you would expect. You over-communicate what needs to be done by when. You over-communicate and reinforce what your understanding is in that particular quarter. And that's the backdrop. Because either we're going to be outcome-focused or we're not. And a team that's outcome-focused has an advancing quality. The path of least resistance moves along, resolves the tension within that 90-day period, and like a cue ball that's set up for the next shot, if we have those 90 days, then we're set up for the following 90 days, and the next one, and the next one. And the big idea is we could get 4 years worth of productivity in one, because that 90 days is 12 weeks, and think of that as a 12-week year. So if you take every week and you think of it as a month, and you take every day and think of it as a week, and you take every hour and it's a day, and take every minute it's an hour, and every second it's a minute, you're having a fractal view of planning. There's no time to waste. That it doesn't reduce the integrity of that hour or that minute. It's all the same. You're just more conscientious about being goal-centric and what you're creating. And by over-communicating it and by reviewing it and reinforcing clarity at every turn, making sure that everyone evangelizes that we understand what we're doing, what's most important, and getting feedback on where we are compared to where we want to be, you have a team that learns. Not just performs, but they learn, and that has the potential for increasing their capacity, their intelligence, discernment, responsibility, which are the qualities that you really want in your human horsepower. It is all about people. Then it's about strategy. Then it's about process. It's always about people first. So in terms of your commitment to excellence, action is the first priority, because learners are going to learn by the actions that they take. There is no real learning until we take action, because we can't see what's wrong with the system that we're working on until we change something in it. And then from that, we become conscientious. We become aware of our own shortcomings. We become aware of where we're suboptimal. We become aware of what we're really working with and what we're gaining and accelerating versus what's detracting from our performance. And the honesty checks of that are what give us the information that we need to become intelligent and to be able to reflect into new actions that are going to deliver us into this quest, this amazing quest that you have a disposition for, a quest, an exploration into the future that you are putting first in terms of yes, and then you figure out how. So reinforcing clarity, recommunicating the vision and goals, communicating it down to the roles and responsibilities, and then having other people, again, trickle down and communicating what's important, what are our 90-day priorities, and then evaluating that quarterly, and then coming up with another quarter based on that reflection cycle of hindsight, insight, and foresight.